life has a way of taking unpredictable turns, and there's no better medium of art than disaster movies to perfectly capture the terror one faces in unexpected circumstances. Over the years, cinema has progressed from films on natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, or iceberg collision, to fantasy films about pandemics, zombie apocalypses, and nuclear disasters. While Hollywood has a lot of options, today we shall especially explore the best foreign disaster movies of the past decade and tell you all about them. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Train to Busan, 2016. Train to Busan is perhaps the most well-known zombie apocalypse film of all time, and it would have been a crime to start this list with any other movie. Released in 2016, this South Korean film was the mastermind of Young Sang-ho and is the perfect package of horror and family drama. It follows the life of a workaholic divorcee named Seok-woo, who embarks on a journey with his estranged daughter, Soo-an. The two travel to Busan so that Soo-an can be with her mother on her birthday, and things take a turn for the worse as a zombie apocalypse breaks out while they're on the train. As the passengers scramble to safety, more and more of them turn into zombies, and the travelers are left in a stump as they watch their fellow survivors take on monstrous form. What makes the movie so heartbreaking is the fact that the passengers have no choice but to separate from their companions and accept that the person they once knew is long gone. The movie has some intense gore as the zombies contort their limbs and take terrifying forms, while Seok-woo strives to get his daughter to safety. Along the journey, he realizes that there is more to life than just looking out for oneself, and leaves the viewers on the edge of their seats as he makes some tough calls and throws himself in the face of danger to protect others. Train to Busan certainly ticks off every single expectation that one may have from a zombie apocalypse movie, and it is especially praised for the way it captures the emotional turmoil and backstories of every last side character on board the train. The Wave, 2015. Set in the small Norwegian town of Geiranger, Rorutog's The Wave is a 2015 disaster film that depicts the terror faced by civilians in the face of a deadly tsunami. As the movie begins, we learn that this town is set on the foot of the Agneset Mountain, which can be best described as a ticking time bomb as rocks fall off the cliff and demand a watchful eye. The protagonist, Christian, is a geologist at a local geology center, and his life takes a turn after he decides to move away and take up a job at an oil company. While Christian is relieved about finally taking his family away from Geiranger, he senses that something is amiss and warns the rest of his colleagues about an incoming rock slide that might potentially flood the town. While his colleagues are hesitant at first, their alarms soon start blaring, and they send out a warning in an attempt to evacuate the entire town. With barely 10 minutes in their hands, the atmosphere turns tense as Christian tries to reach out for his family, only to learn that they evacuated on their own. The Wave stands out among fans due to its realistic nature, as Christian helplessly witnesses his town crumble before his eyes and leaves a barren, eerily still land behind in the aftermath of the tsunami. Pandora, 2016. Directed by Park Jung-woo, Pandora is a South Korean disaster blockbuster inspired by the Fukushima nuclear disaster that took place in 2011. The movie sends out a strong political message and is considered quite a revolutionary attempt by Jung-woo to highlight the government's carelessness while dealing with nuclear energy. It follows the life of Kang Jae-hyuk, a mechanic who works at a poorly constructed nuclear plant, even after losing his father and brother in accidents at the same place. While Jae-hyuk considers leaving, an earthquake severely damages the plant and causes a radiation leak through a crack in a cooling vault, as the workers scramble to control the radiation from polluting the air and making South Korea an inhabitable country. Jae-hyuk reluctantly decides against quitting his job, even if it means putting his life in grave danger. Pandora highlights the risks associated with nuclear energy, as we see the workers endanger their lives while trying to fix the cracked valves that continue to spray radiated water. While the plant's maintenance engineer takes no measures to ensure his workers' safety, viewers root for Jae-hyuk and the workers who work in the face of death to contain the damage within the plant. Pandora may be a cliche film in some regard, but it is a pretty realistic depiction of what goes down in extreme scenario and is guaranteed to take the viewers on an emotional ride.
근데 아저씨가 데려다 줄 거야?
아니요. 우리 엄마가
Flu, 2013. After dealing with a global pandemic, a movie about a deadly flu would probably hit a little too close to home. directed by Kim Sung-soo. Flu is a 2013 South Korean thriller that takes us on a wild ride as the protagonists scramble to save themselves from a mutated form of the avian virus. It starts on a slow note in Hong Kong as a bunch of people are smuggled to South Korea in a shipping container, and things slowly unravel as the virus starts killing residents within 36 hours of being in the air. While the government scrambles to declare a mass lockdown in Seongnam, the story follows a woman named Kim In-hae, who loses an important hard drive after her car falls into a mine shaft. In-hae asks an ERT member named Oh-ji-gu to retrieve the hard drive, who ends up seeking In-hae's daughter, Mi-ru, in an attempt to reach her. While In-hae gets caught up with the virus, Mi-ru comes across the sole survivor from the smuggled container that unleashed the virus, and she enlists the help of Oh-ji-gu to find her mother and find a cure for the virus. Flu does start on a slow note, but it slowly picks up pace as characters come together from different walks of life to bring things under control as the situation gets hysterical. The movie makes for an interesting watch, and it is bound to resonate well with us now that we have all lived through a similar pandemic. The Burning Sea, 2021. Best described as a ticking time bomb, The Burning Sea is a tale of two lovers and their readiness to sacrifice themselves for the other's sake in the face of disaster. The movie starts with an oil rig manager named William Lai, who has ensured that his workers signed an NDA, preventing them from warning civilians about an impending explosive disaster at the Gulfax A oil rig. As they discover a crack in the North Sea's floor, a submarine expert named Sophia works alongside her co-worker Arthur to do something about the dangers of keeping the oil rig running about 200 kilometers off Norway's western coast. If this does not entice you, the plot deepens as Sophia falls for an oil rig worker named Stian, and even moves in with him after an accident at the rig leaves her traumatized. While Sophia recovers, Stian reports to work and is handed the responsibility of traveling to the bottom of the sea to manually shut off the final valve. Disaster strikes again as Stian's drilling platform collapses and traps him within it, while a fire breaks out and poses a threat to his life. Despite not having recovered from the past incident, Sophia bravely volunteers to operate the submarine and save Stian before the entire sea is set ablaze. The Burning Sea is a beautiful depiction of the extent to which one might sacrifice oneself to save our loved one, and it is quite a gripping tale as viewers find themselves losing hope for these characters, who must persevere even in the most dire situation. The Quake. While The Wave follows the life of a geologist named Christian Eichjord in the face of disaster, The Quake is set in the aftermath of the rockslide tsunami and focuses more on the after effects of the catastrophe. After making the tough decision to stay in Aknaset, after initially intending to move away, Christian is struck with survivor's guilt as he tries to accept that nothing will ever return to the way it was. After losing several close ones and witnessing his neighborhood's wreckage, Christian tries to deal with his trauma and finds himself separated from his family. While he gets temporary custody of his children, he finds himself to be a distant father who is in no state to look after others. He drowns himself in work with a newfound determination to detect and prevent any more catastrophe, but sadly neglects his children in the process. As he works himself to the bone, Christian ends up investigating a friend's death in Oslo, which is also where his family had decided to settle after the tsunami. It seems like trouble is destined to follow them no matter where they relocate, and Christian soon detects suspicious activity in the Earth's core. He tries to warn his family just in time, and once again tries to save them as a high-magnitude earthquake hits Oslo. The Quake is a unique example of a disaster film, as most movies in this genre are standalone films with a singular disaster unfolding over the course of the movie. Kudos to Roy Utag for pulling off not one, but two disaster films in succession, and his ability to make these stories realistic certainly deserves some special recognition. The Quake adds more depth to these characters that we have already come to love in The Wave, and it makes for an emotional watch as a sequel as well as a standalone film. Fukushima 50, 2020. As far as disaster movies go, they do not get more realistic than Fukushima 50, based on the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant disaster in Okuma, Japan. Directed by Setsuro Wakamatsu, the film takes place at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant after a tsunami wave hits in the aftermath of an earthquake. As the power plant's backup generator malfunctions, plant workers throw their lives into danger to keep it up and running, even though they don't particularly wish to sacrifice themselves. What helps Fukushima 50 stand apart is its realistic portrayal of human humans in the face of disaster, wherein the workers are not keen on sacrificing their lives or earning a name for keeping the plant running. These emergency workers only stay back out of an obligation to protect their loved one, which gives us a fresh perspective into the minds of disaster survivors. As the characters deal with severe issues within the plant, viewers are bound to get attached to them and root for their safety in this technical retelling of the incident. Inspired by the book titled On the Brink, the inside story of Fukushima Daiichi, which includes interviews with the survivor, it is almost surreal that this movie gives us a chance to witness everything the workers experience from a third-person perspective, from the comfort of our home. Ashfall, 2019, directed by Lee Hae-jun and Kim Byung-seo. Ashfall is a fast-paced disaster movie that takes us on a wild ride, as the main characters battle very low probabilities of survival. It all starts when Mount Paktu, a volcano on the North Korea-China border, erupts and triggers an earthquake so intense that its effects are felt all the way in Seoul. Meanwhile, a geologist predicts that the volcano is set to erupt twice more, and the only way to deal with it would be to launch a nuclear missile with a 3.48% chance of diffusing the eruption's pressure and containing the damage it could do. As things build up, Captain Jo In-chang's team travels to North Korea to meet with Ri Jun-pyong to secretly locate the North Korean missiles and set them off. Things go haywire as they try to dodge the North Korean forces, and the scene often shifts to Jo In-chang's pregnant wife, Ji-young, as she faces the disaster on her own with her husband far away. As In-chang's forces do their best to prevent the volcano from eradicating the Korean peninsula, they engage in quite a bit of action, and the film almost feels like an action thriller with a disastrous subplot. Ashfall stands out among other disaster films due to the humorous tone that it sets, even in the face of death and destruction, and it is certainly a breath of fresh air among other South Korean disaster films. As the Light Goes Out, 2014. As the Light Goes Out is a gripping tale of two brothers named Sam and Yip, who work together as firefighters to contain a deadly fire that breaks out at a liquor warehouse. The movie takes place on the night of their boss's retirement, as they rush to the warehouse and try to contain the fire before it spreads to a nearby natural gas power plant, triggering an explosion that could potentially wreck all of Hong Kong. As Sam and Yip try to keep their cool while trying to contain this fire in a race against time, we get an insight into the inner workings of the fire department. The movie especially sheds light on the difficulties faced by firefighters, and it received a lot of praise for its excellent cinematography and stunt choreography. As The Light Goes Out not only serves plenty of action and adventure, but also captures the feelings of alienation and vulnerability that one might feel while dealing with such disasters. Trapped, 2015. Focusing on the survivors of Super Typhoon Haiyan, which killed about 6,000 people in the Philippines, Trapped sheds light on the survivors as they try to regain a sense of normalcy after such a tragic incident. The movie focuses on three characters named Bebeth, Larry, and Erwin, as their lives are meshed together after the typhoon severely damages the city of Tacloban. As the three of them search for the dead, Bebeth clings to what little faith she has left and tries to look for her three children with the help of DNA records that can help her find their bodies among those who had been buried at a mass grave. Meanwhile, Larry finds faith in a bunch of Catholics carrying a life-size crucifix around the city and copes with his wife's death. Their paths collide with Erwin, a young boy who had managed to survive the typhoon alongside his elder brother and younger sister. While Erwin and his brother hide their parents' death from the younger sister, the story brings all these characters together as they grieve for their loved ones while also trying to make it out on their own. The movie is an excellent attempt to capture the trauma suffered by civilians in the face of such an unexpected tragedy, and it even received a standing ovation at the 2015 Cannes Film Festival. The Wandering Earth, 2019. In an attempt to capture humans' unending grit and determination, The Wandering Earth is a unique disaster film where humanity just does not seem to be able to catch a break. Taking place over 2 decades, the movie first focuses on a time when the sun grew too close to our home planet and engulfed it in flame. In a desperate attempt to protect our planet, the government decided to build Earth engines that act as propellers and help us move across the galaxy in search of a new solar system. Labeled as the Wandering Earth Project, this attempt works at first, but soon enough, Earth stops rotating and freezes over after being forced out of its orbit. As the story jumps 17 years into the future, we are introduced to a younger generation of the population, which includes Han Duo, Lin Ki, and Tim, as they try to keep Earth out of Jupiter's orbit. Things go awry when an earthquake destroys the propeller, and humanity once again finds itself in grave danger as they face the threat of being crushed by Jupiter. As far as disaster films go, The Wandering Earth is majorly fictional, and its out-of-the-box plot made it an instant classic as soon as it hit the theater. Over time, this movie has been seen as a beautiful portrayal of humans' inherent resilience in the face of unpredictable disasters, and it also gives a strong message of teamwork across international community. Skyfire, 2019. Directed by Simon West, Skyfire is a classic disaster movie that focuses on a volcano on Tainan Island, where our protagonist, Chiao Meng, lost her mother several years ago in an eruption. After making a life for herself as a scientist, Meng finds herself returning to Tainan Island to protect the locals from the same fate as her mother, but she is surprised to see that the place has been turned into a tourist attraction. Besides setting up an amusement park, we see that the corporations have capitalized on the volcano without realizing that they might put thousands of lives in danger when it finally erupts again. It goes without saying that it does not take long for the dormant volcano to turn active again, and Meng soon joins hands with the people on the island to survive and make it out of the doomed island. The movie is a straightforward attempt to shed light on the money-hungry nature of corporations at the cost of human lives, and what makes it stand out is that it will leave you feeling sympathetic for the antagonist as they face the consequences of their actions. Marvelous verdict. To wrap things up, disaster films truly evoke a whirlpool of emotions within the audience's hearts, and every last film on this list has managed to depict the harsh realities of disasters in a gut-wrenching manner. Be it the zombie plague in Train to Busan, or the tsunamis in The Wave, the air is thick with dread in these films, and they are certainly worth a watch in case you haven't already stumbled across them. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe.